I know, and many of you have heard me say this, is that as we've been blessed as a family and we go out on the road and we're always looking for, what's the Father doing and telling other people about it, that he must like the way that we tell his story, because he keeps giving us a lot of stories to tell. And last time that I was with you, I believe I shared that. I don't remember. I was in quite a state of running and gunning when I was doing that call from our car as we were heading to a location to have a mechanic look at it. And it you had already heard about, and I had told at that point that when we left Florida, we immediately fried the brakes on the trailer because it seems one of the children accidentally pulled out the runaway key that came out of the trailer, locked up the brakes. We didn't know about it. So on our very first day, we fried the brakes. That was a $700 problem. And we ended up driving all the way up to Augusta with the brakes sort of engaged somewhat in a way we couldn't do anything about, which really put a tax on the car. We got that fixed. But then when we left Augusta and headed out toward Texas, we were having a major problem going up the hills. The car, even at some point pulling the trailer, was only doing 40 miles an hour. And here we are in our 20-year-old SUV, and it's just putting along. We had already had some issues with the manifolds and things, but it keeps going. And I had faith that it would keep going. So we're going through Georgia or Alabama or something like that. And a couple of things happened. One, Kim, my wife, is getting quite concerned, as I understand. But I was saying to her two things. One, this vehicle will take us as far as it needs to, and it will go until we have provision for something else. I'm confident of that because we're doing his work. Secondly, I said to Kim, we've wanted an RV and maybe a van and maybe this and maybe that ever since we were on tour last year and went out with the same rig that we're pulling now. But we've never really fully prayed about it. There's never been a definitive, this is what we want. And we need, and the two of us coming together to pray about it. And it's really sort of shame on us for doing that. Now, my wife doesn't want to limit God, and I understand that nobody wants to do that. But I found that we limit him by not praying specifically, by not being specific and coming with a specific. If he wants to correct it, change it in any way, make it better as he tends to do, he'll do that. But let's pray specific. So I was like, hey, it's looking pretty bad for this car. I don't know how much longer this is going to be, but please tell me what it is that you want, and whatever your heart's desire is, and let's pray in unity as husband and wife for this. So Kim started talking about all the things that she wanted, and she talked about being a van and thinking that we might get the RV on the line. It wasn't necessarily time that we needed the RV, but what we needed was a van that was more powerful and in better shape than this SUV that we have, that was comfortable, that could really handle the pulling the trailer, especially as we're heading toward the Rockies. And that if we end up getting an RV, it could be one that gets pulled behind a really powerful van. Or if we get like a coach, this could be pulled behind it. And she laid out some other parameters that were quite specific, but that was it. But what she kept saying is comfort. She really wanted the family to be comfortable, and our SUV was great, but with 8 people, that's all the room there is, and the children are getting larger and they're touching each other, and over hours and hours, young children can get in some siblings can get in some conflicts with each other, but especially with all the miles that we've done and all the miles that we're planning, she kept coming up with this word comfort. So she prayed, she said that, I prayed, she prayed, we confirmed it, and we left it at that as we kept putting down the road. Now, I did call ahead to Emory, Texas, where we were going to be teaching. There's a congregation there, and they were putting us up in a dormitory style thing there, and we were going to be teaching there before heading on to Revive. And I said, would you please get me a mechanic to see the car on Wednesday when we're there, because we got issues and I need to know what's going on, because there's no way this is going to go over the Rockies. And when you last were in tune with me at the last thing, what had happened was he said, we have a mechanic I can't find anybody that can see you for sure on Wednesday, but we have a mechanic in our congregation, but he doesn't live here in Emory. He lives in this town called Omaha, Texas, which I've come to find out people who live in Texas have no idea where Omaha, Texas is. It's just it's like, in a way, it's like a ghost town, and it's become sort of a retirement town type of thing. And he says if you go up there, he has a little garage space, and he'll see you, and he's a great guy, and he'll seek to fix you up. So I called the guy, and he set up two things which sounded great, which is, one, as soon as you get here, I'll see you. And secondly, he said, I have a van. And he said, I'll give you my van. You can go on to Emory with your trailer and your family and go stay there. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to be coming to your event. So I'll get your car fixed up as much as I can, and I'll bring it to you the next night. I was like, well, that's perfect. Clearly, that's a great thing to do. So again, when I hung up on the line with you, we were heading up to Omaha, Texas. Now, funny, we happen to know people in Omaha, Texas. When we went and I want you to, I'm telling this story in great detail because how the Father arranges these kinds of things, there's no way to explain it. But I'm not going to give you every piece of detail, but these key things, and there's a lot of them, really put together an amazing testimony. So we had met these people at Sukkot the previous year. Now, people have been following me for a while. We kept two sets of feasts last year. And so we had a Sukkot A and a Sukkot B because there was a calendar discrepancy. And we decided, rather than argue, that we would go to more parties. So because of this, we got to keep a second Sukkot. And that one was actually before the one that we had already planned to do and we're planned to teach at. We're invited to teach at in Florida, in Missouri. And we met these people. We camped right across from them in their RV, a lovely couple that we got to know. And they were into natural health. She does Young Living. She's a distributor at a high level. She's like a platinum or something, and really, really nice and friendly, and got to know them. And also, I taught at that spot. Nobody knew me when I got there, basically, but with the favor I got, I taught from the main stage. And the next day, I got an email from this pastor in Emory, Texas, who had seen us on the live stream. And this is why we ended up getting invited to Emory, Texas. So these two things are somewhat together. But we find ourselves heading up to Omaha. Now, we had planned to connect with these people and possibly stay with them in Omaha on our way to Dallas. But we got invited to teach right before we did that. We never contacted them. But while we were heading up there, Kim decides to give them a call. My wife decides to give them a call and says, hey, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a year. Just so happens that we're coming up into your town. We don't plan to stay there. We wanted to see you, but just in case things don't go as planned, is there room at the inn? And they said, absolutely. Please give us a call if there's any issue. We'd love to see you. So I hang up the phone with you all, and we head up to this Omaha, and we get up there at about 9 o'clock at night. And we're in this ghost town, and basically where there's warehouses and only this guy. And two things immediately happen. One, he looks at our trailer and looks at his van and says, I didn't realize your trailer was this big. I don't think I can safely give you my trailer to pull my van to pull your trailer. And he also very apologetically says, I didn't realize this, but my wife needs me to take her to this doctor 2 hours away tomorrow. I'm going to be gone basically all day. And I'm looking at him and I said, do you realize that we were going to go to Emory, but we drove all the way up here out of the way just to see you, and that tomorrow's the only day to get it fixed? Like, what's going on here? And I appreciate this young guy, but it's like the whole deal to get us to Omaha, to go up there, it's now like gone. And I'm trying not to get angry with the guy because I've been on the road all day. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Trying not to get angry with him. And he's saying, well, just bring it in the shop. And I was like, and he's even telling me, he's not even sure. He works on older cars like hot rods from the 40s and 50s. He's not even sure whether he can. We were referring to my car, my 97 car, as a late model car. Like, I don't work on cars this new. And very well-intentioned guy, but it was like, there's nothing here. So I say to Kim, let's just go. Let's just go to Emory and figure it out. And she said, no, we're here for a reason. We need to stay here. We're here for a reason. And she calls that other couple up, and they said, yes, we, stay with us and we'll pray with you and we'll be over there. We live a couple miles away. We'll be over there. And they come over and we end up at their house. And I end up saying to the guy on the way out, I was like, this is so Yehovah. I said, don't worry about it. I said, I've seen this happen before. You were used to get us here. Like, why in the world are we here? We're not even supposed to be in the city. There's something going on here in this city. And my wife was really pushing it and confirming it. I said, there's something here. There was a reason we were supposed to come, and you were just the agent to get us here, because everything that you said you were going to do is gone. Like, and this has to be something else. So we go to their house, very lovely house on 50 acres on a lake, and going to be a place for the children to four-wheel and play around, much more accommodating than the dorms that we were going to be given. And they say, and I say, I'm just so exhausted. They say, stay with us. I said, but I would need to go to Emory to teach. They said, look, stay here. And the husband says, I'll drive you tomorrow to your teaching and drive you back, because I know you'll be exhausted with the teaching, and you'll just stay here for a couple of days. And they're going to the Revive conference. So they said, somehow we'll get you there. If your car works, if not, we'll figure it out. We'll tow your trailer with our other truck. And they were just perfect for helping us calm down and just try to think soberly, because at this point we were quite exhausted. So I go and I set up my computer, and I was doing other stuff. And I don't know that this is going on. We find this out the next day. Is the woman, they go to bed, but she's there and she's praying for like a couple hours. How can we help this family? Now, remember, we knew them from a year ago, spent a few days with them, but we had no plans to even see them or anything. And they're praying, how can they help us? And she doesn't want to say anything to her husband. But when he comes to bed, like a couple hours later, she says, how should we help them? And he says to her exactly what she had been praying for a couple of hours, which really excites her. And what that is it just so happens that they, like some people in Hebrew roots, they don't know where to put their tithes and their offerings, and so they sort of hold them back, wondering what to do with them. They had made a decision what to do with quite a bit of money that they had been stashing, and they were planning to do something with it the next day. But after praying, they both decided that they want to help us with it, these people who just showed up out of nowhere. And they decide that they will pay to get the repair done, or if the repair can't be done, that they're going to use their resources to help us get down the road, whatever that means. So the next morning, he gets up and heads out to find the mechanic who will see us, and he ends up calling me and tells me to come to the Ford dealership. Now, I had taken the car off the trailer, and so there was no load on it or anything. I go to start up the car to drive it, and it's bump, 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 and I can't even get the car started. Like, this has never happened before. Finally, I get it, and I get it started, and I 2-foot it, pop it into gear, and on the way to their property line fence, it stalls. And I just sit there and I start laughing, saying, okay, Father, I guess this is as far as we can go. Like I said, and it's no longer than, an inch more than this car needs to go. There has to be other provision here. So I was able to finally get it started and go and get it up to speed. And I get to the Ford dealership, and they end up analyzing that the compression's gone. It needs a new engine. And at a Ford dealership, that's going to be like $10,000. And there's no way that we're going to put that into this car. Now, we have to be at a teaching that night, Revive conference the following day, and then we need to be off on this whole tour that we've planned. And now we have no car. So we're back at their place, and the couple comes out and sits Kim and me down and tells us this story about the previous evening when they had prayed and decided that they wanted to help us. And we're sitting there listening, and they handed us a box with $13,000 in cash in the box. As well, they handed us, I hope people are like hooting on the other line, the other side. And they also handed us a sheet of paper that she had found a Chevy 3500 van in Dallas that was about $12,000, and so with tax and tags and stuff would be this amount. And said, hey, we'll drive into Dallas, we'll check into the hotel. We were getting there the day before, and you'll go out and and you don't have to buy this van, but this may be the van for you. And I'm thinking, we don't have time to think. This has got to be the van. So meanwhile, Kim and I, these people are so excited that they're helping us, that in prayer they had made this decision as a couple and everything. And Kim and I are looking at each other, and we're not like jumping up and down. We're just like looking at each other. And I turned to the couple and I said, I want to apologize to you because Kim and I aren't jumping up and down. And I want you to know something. The alternative of you having this money for us is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare if you weren't doing this. But the fact that you are doing it and that this provision came exactly when we needed it, like for Kim and me, it's like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's how the kingdom works. Like we've seen this so much that it's not that we're not ecstatic, but it's like we're just like bewildered at how the Father does this and thinking, yeah, that's kingdom. You know, that this is what needed to happen. This is what should happen. But the fact that it happened is absolutely amazing, obviously. So we strip out our car and we're going to leave it there and figuring we'll tithe it. We'll give it to somebody. It needs a new engine, but it's had a lot of work recently on it that we don't want it to just be junked. It could be a great car for someone who wants to get like a rebuilt engine and put it in himself. So we head off for Dallas and we go to the hotel and then we go over to this car dealership. Now, at this car dealership, this is an AutoNation. And when we get there, we call ahead and they say, yeah, you can come see it. And when we get there, they say, well, you can see it, but the mechanic's still working on it and you can't drive it. And we're like, what do you mean we can't drive it? You said we could see it. Well, you can see it. Can we start it? Yes. Yeah. So we go and we take a look at it and it's nice and it's decent. It was a church van, but it's pretty stripped out. And even though it had very low mileage, the seats are like totally ripped apart. So it would need, you know, new upholstery and everything. And also they tell me at AutoNation, by the way, that they have a no hassle, no haggle policy. They figure out the price and you pay it or you don't pay it. And I know for most people that may be comforting at a used car dealership, but you know, I'm Jewish and not haggling for anything, much less a car, it just really goes against, you know, my nature. And I have a concern I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe if I know. I mean, not only that, I'm an Israeli citizen. I mean, I'm a Middle Eastern Jew. How do you not haggle for something? So they tell me that. I meet with the sales manager. We do work out some things, but basically we can't even drive it. And the next day was Friday. We're going to be at the show. We have a table. I said, I can't even come back here till Monday and drive it. And they say, well, put $500 down on it. We'll hold it for you. So we end up doing that we can get back and we leave. Now they're supposed to send us the next day this whole list of all the things they're fixing, and they never do. So we're starting to feel maybe this isn't the car, but what else can we afford? What else can we do? So we go back, we go to Revive, and we're telling people about the fact that we lost our car, and people are saying, oh, I want to help you, and I know a guy, and you know, I can do this and I can do that. And it's really great because people really wanted to help us and figure this out so we can get back on the road. But I can't deal with it because of this. Now on Sunday, I steal away a little bit Sunday afternoon, and I go, you know what, if this car doesn't work out, I better have some other stuff. And people had suggested going on Craigslist, which we're in town for like a couple of days. Craigslist is private sale. I don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to do a private sale, but people say go on Craigslist. So I go on Craigslist and I find some other things. And I find this one van that is not like the others. It's a Chevy 3500, which if anybody knows, this is like the best van on the market. It's really hardcore. It's heavy duty, but basically it's pretty stripped out. It's got bench seat and fabric, and it's, you know, it's just this basic thing, which we would love to have. And you know, we'll be blessed to have it, but really for all the miles we're doing and everything isn't that great, but we're happy to do it. But there's this one van pops up on Craigslist that is just beautiful. It's a conversion. It's a 2006, a conversion van. It has about 165,000 miles on it, but these vans, if you take care of them, can do 500,000 miles. And it's just beautiful. It's just tricked out with everything, the leather interior and everything. And I'm looking at the thing and I'm thinking, well, that would be great. But you know, looking at the prices and everything, you know, it's just going to be out of our range. I don't think so. But I decided to write the guy anyway and ask because there was no price listed on there. So I write him that night after Kim looks over stuff with me and says, yeah, let's find out. And he does some back and forth, and he said, we're still trying to figure out the price. We don't know yet. And but on Craigslist, it's supposed to be anonymous. But because when he sends back the email, it puts his signature on the bottom. And I see that he's a guy who's actually the director of ministry on the University of Florida campus at Gainesville, where Kim actually went to undergraduate at Gainesville. So I write the guy back and I'm like, hey, we're a traveling ministry. And my wife went to US, trying to make all the connections possible. And finally, the next morning, and he writes me back and he says, you
got very bright.
What? I got very bright. Well, thank you very much. Did I get very bright? Are you saying I'm brilliant? Let me turn the brightness down. How's that?
That's
Is that a little bit better? Okay.
Don't try.
So
Don't
I'm actually going to pull up the guy's text to me right now because you really can't make this stuff up. And I want to show you what he wrote me. Let me go back in this. It's got to load in. So he writes me. Sorry, I didn't have this queued up. He writes me back. He said, "Hi, love hearing your story. I took the van in to get detailed, and it will be available this afternoon." And talked about some things that needed to get fixed. As for the price, it is such a rare van because it's a 9-passenger Rocky Ridge conversion. So I'm working on the price today. We love the van for all our road trips, but wasn't best for us day-to-day in Gainesville. My dad lives here in Dallas, so we drove it here and plan to sell it this week. So I said, can you give me a ballpark? And he writes me back and he says, I just called a conversion van dealer who specializes in these vans, and he said its value was around $18,000. We also love how God is working our timing to be in town at the same time, being both of us are basically passing through, and we'd love to see if we can make this work for you guys. If you're willing, let me know what you're able to do, and let's see if we can work it out. So he writes me that. We're just about ready to go leave and to go see these other older vans, just because we have to make a decision today. This is the day we're supposed to leave and go to Norman. We'll leave that day or tomorrow, but we got to buy something. And the next day, by the way, is the 4th of July. So how in the world are we going to get anything done? So we leave to go driving, and I'm thinking, what can I offer him? It's worth $18,000. I really have $12,000. That's really all I can offer. Can I ask for that? What can I do here? And I turned to Kim and I said, what if we asked him to come down a little, but then we did a campaign to raise the rest? And she's saying yes, but what she's really thinking is, well, this is our provision. This is what we were given to get the van. She says yes to me, but she really doesn't want to. So she wants to see this come through in this way. So we drive about 2 minutes away, heading in the direction of the other car dealerships. And I text him, can we talk? Because I'm not going to make a counter offer over text. I want to talk to him. And after I send that text, I realized that he had just texted me back. And what did he write in the text that he had just sent me? He wrote this: my wife and I talked about it, and I would love to offer it to you for $12,000 if that works for you guys. If not, we completely understand. At which point I start screaming, hallelujah, hallelujah. And like the children are freaking out. Kim almost swerves off the road. And she says, what in the world's going on? And I'm looking at my phone saying, did I make him a counteroffer? Because the counteroffer I would have had to have made him was $12,000. And that's what he wrote me. And I said, no, I never said that. I didn't say it. So I get him on the phone and I said, you're not going to believe this. And he said, well, my wife does stuff like that. She figured out. I said, this was exactly the amount of money. And I said, so, this is it. This is obviously it. And I'll be showing you pictures of it soon, and you'll know why it's it for sure. So I'm texting back and forth with him. We're figuring, how do we get this all done? And he says, let's meet me at the tax office, and you're going to need to get insurance and a temporary tag and all this, and we work all that out. So we still decide to go to this other car dealership just to see what we would have had to get, and really happy now about what we're getting and how amazing this is working out. And we go there, and like right before the tax office closes, before the 4th of July. We do the deal, and we meet the guy, and I'm away getting a cashier's check because he doesn't want cash. Getting a cashier's check, and Kim, the guy, shows up, and I send Kim out. By the time I get there, the children are going through the thing, and everybody's jumping up and down. And I walk up and I say hi to the guy. I shake his hand, and I say to Kim, "What do you think?" And she just looks at me and smiles. I said, "You want it?" She says, "Yes." And I hand the guy the check. We hadn't driven the car. I hadn't even looked at the car, but we did. Why? Because this was a kingdom handoff. The guy is a believer. He works full time in ministry. The van had been used in ministry. This was so above and beyond anything. And the way that it was orchestrated, with somebody giving us an exact amount and then him coming down to that exact amount. And I just said, that's it. So I want to show some photos of this thing that we got. And then there's more. Okay, this is not the end. This is like the end of Act 2. And then there's another testimony, which is, how in the world did the van get to Dallas? Because I have the testimony of the man who sold it to us. And then I also have something else to just put sort of the cherry on top of the whipped cream there. So Kurt, I'm going to go to share my screen here to show people what we ended up with. And thank you all for, we went on the road, we proved that that we'll go no matter what, right? That we'll just, where are we here? That no matter what, we were going out, but it was absolutely time for an upgrade. Let me see, let me hit my buttons right here. We do that, we share screen, application window, and this. Okay, so this is what we were driving. This is me with the photo as we were saying goodbye and leaving our car at their house, saying, "Oh well, it died," and saying goodbye to our faithful steed that had taken us so far last year and took us 1,500 miles this year. But this is what we're in now, and this is our family with the man Andy who sold it to us. Hallelujah! Look at that. You see that thing on the roof? That's a satellite dish. I have really no idea why we need a satellite dish. Maybe we're going to be watching movies through the tribulation. I don't know. But the thing has everything, including a satellite dish. This is Kim. We took the magnet of repairing the breach off of our old car, and we immediately put them on this brand new extended van. This is the 3500 extended. And this was later when we hooked it up to our trailer. If anybody had seen us hook up before our SUV to the trailer, the trailer would go down in front and our car would go back. This thing, like, it hardly even knows the trailer is on there. This is at the Reunion Tower in Dallas when we first got back there and had a chance to look it up. But this is what the children are riding in now. We got leather seats, captain's chairs for everybody riding in style. So people aren't, stop touching me and all that stuff isn't going on anymore. You can see there, it's got a 27-inch flat panel monitor so that when we want to put on a movie, we don't have to hand a DVD player around to people. They can just watch a movie. And this last back seat, the bench seat in the back, actually, I didn't have a picture of it, but it goes down to a flat to a bed for two people to lay on it. And obviously the roof is pushed out there with lighting and everything else. So this is what the Goldmans got upgraded to under absolutely nothing that we did except Kim and I finally got together and prayed. We finally did the thing that, my goodness, we should have done a long time ago. But when we got together and prayed, it broke this open, and here we are, headed out, and it's been lovely. I mean, it's a lot less stressful than putting down the road, wondering if the car is going to die at any moment, which is basically how we had left Florida. But we didn't have a choice. We kept going. So let me tell you the Act 3 and the epitaph, if that's the right phrase. This man, who again, he works for a ministry in Gainesville, but we're in Dallas. Okay, so he goes to tell me his story. He lived in Dallas and his family's from there, but about a year ago, he took this position in Gainesville, Florida, in Central Florida. And he had this big van, and he's had it for years. We're only the third owner. The original owner was a Marine who he believes was a believer, and there's a Marine sticker, the Marines sticker on the back. And he bought it quite a few years ago, and he's used it for ministry. He's used it for road trips. It runs great. There's no problems with it. He has all the documentation and everything. And this thing is like a really rare conversion van. Just, again, has basically everything. But driving around Gainesville as a day-to-day car just didn't, it's not good for it. So his mother passed away about a year ago, and she had a minivan. So his father said to him, look, drive up to Dallas, get your mother's minivan, sell the big van here, and drive home. And so because it's summer break, he, with a cousin of his, I guess, drove up. Now, their plan was to stop in Georgia and maybe see some people. I don't really know the whole thing, but their plan was to get there at the end of the week. But he's driving on Sunday, and he just decides, for some unknown reason, that he's going to drive on through. He's not going to take it slow. He's just going to drive through to Dallas and get it over with. So he pulls over into a rest stop, takes one photo of the van, does a write-up on Craigslist, and through his cell phone, or a hotspot, uploads this to Craigslist. About an hour later, I walk into my hotel room in Dallas and go on Craigslist, where I wasn't intending to go at all, and I find this listing. That night, when I wrote him at about midnight and he wrote me back, it wasn't that he was up late. It was that he was on the road, because he got into Dallas at 3 a.m. on the very day that we needed to buy a vehicle. And his plan was to go there, visit with his dad for a couple days, sell the car, and drive home. I mean, he wasn't even supposed to be in Dallas. I'm in Dallas for a couple of days. He's in Dallas for a couple of days. And amazingly, this thing gets hand delivered to us. And right before we need to go, and right before 4th of July, we close the deal. We get the temporary tag, the insurance and everything. We pay him. And now we have an answer to our conundrum of what do we do if our car breaks down? We don't have that problem anymore, because this thing runs great. It pulls the trailer better than anything. It also answers our question of how in the world were we going to get over the Rockies, because that's not an issue anymore. How in the world does this work? How in the world do we go to Omaha, Texas, when we weren't supposed to be in Omaha, Texas, so that we connect with these people that we met last year at a Sukkot that we were never supposed to be at, and on and on and on and on? How in the world does the father orchestrate all of these things in order to provide for his children? You know what? I don't care. I just really like how he does it, and I want to see more of it, and I want to keep going with it. Now, let me give you the end thing, which is just incredible that I even know this. As I'm driving over to the bank to get the cashier's check, Jeff Hazim, many of you know, is my ministry partner for many years, my best friend. He texted me from Florida to ask me about something that he wanted me to check into. And after we go back and forth on that, he asked me a question. Now, he could ask me for anything. I've known him for over 15 years. We're in each other's lives. But he says to me, how's your car doing? Now, he hadn't known anything except about the brakes on the trailer. He didn't know anything about the car problem. But he asked me that question, and I wrote him back. I said, funny you should ask. Our car is dead. Hallelujah. And he writes me back, and he said, so is there other provision happening? And I said, momentarily. And he says, well, you got to tell me the story. And I said, it's still being written. I don't have time. I'll call you later. So after we go through all this, we buy it, and we're driving back with this van. I get on the phone with him, and I start telling him this story, how all these things came together. And he said, oh, you're looking for the 3500. He said, I noticed that. That's a really great van. And he says to me, about a month and a half ago, I did a road trip with my family up to New York and around the East Coast. I said, yeah. And he said he stopped at a friend who had a conversion van. And ever since then, Jeff Hazim has said, I really want to get a conversion van and go out with my family and travel around in that. He has 3 children. And for the past month, he's been going on Auto Trader which has 7 million listings. It's the biggest used car listing in the United States. And he's been searching around the United States for conversion vans. And he said that Chevy 3500 is a monster. He said that thing is amazing. And, you guys would probably appreciate a conversion van. But he said, I've been looking and I've been dragging the ones I found into a folder for a month. And the only conversion vans out there in the Chevrolet are the 1500. He found one 2500. But he said the 3500 that you need, because you have a lot of towing and everything, he said nobody does a conversion van in that. He said, I've been searching for a month and I haven't found one Chevy 3500 conversion van. So I just wanted to share that with you because, you're not going to get a conversion van. You would need a 1500. But anyway, go back to your story and tell me what happened. And meanwhile, I'm driving down the road in a 3500 conversion van, which according to Jeff doesn't exist anywhere in the country. He hasn't found any except the one that was hand delivered to us in Dallas on the day that we had to buy a car. That, I don't even know what to say. Hallelujah. I mean, what else is there to say? It's like that's the only word that, could come out of my mouth and has been for a long time. How in the world does this work? Well, I believe the Father really likes how when he answers our prayers, we follow him, we praise him, and our testimony causes other people to praise him and follow him too. Back to that pattern from Luke 18. And the better we tell the story, and look, I just got to tell it again. I need a shorter version. I will need to come up with some way to tell this in 10 minutes so that we can, or 15 at most, so we can get the story around the world, because this is a story. This is very real, folks. Everything I've said to you, it's been in story form. So, the things that I brought up and things that I left out, but this thing actually happened. It happened to us, and the van's sitting right out there. And as I've said to Kurt and others, every day, if I start to feel lack, maybe we don't have money for this, what's going to happen? I might start to feel a little fear or whatever. I just go to the door and I look at that van. I say, if this is what he can do out of nothing, just putting us in the right place at the right time with all the right people to do this, how in the world can I worry? I just need to keep going. And just looking for the next, big adventure. And whenever something gets thrown our way that we wonder, is this a problem? Is this a crisis? Is to just say, and I know I've shared this with many of you, Father, what are you doing here? What is this about? How are you going to play this story out? How is this story going to end up getting told in a way that glorifies you? I'm really interested in seeing how you pull this one off, because this is completely outside our capacity to do anything with, and yet we trust you to take care of it. And we'll keep telling that testimony as it happens and when it